Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. This is Property Management 101, and for today's video, we'll be reviewing 4 things that you should do every single time you inspect a vacant unit. I've released another video on this topic that's titled Managing Vacant Units. I will post that link to that video in the description. That video is much more geared towards setting up processes for managing your vacant units overall. This video is much more geared towards what you and your team should be doing when you are inspecting these vacant units. And here are 4 things that you should be doing every single time you're inspecting a vacant unit. Number 1, you want to ensure that the unit is secure. So what I mean by this is you want to make sure that everything is locked up so it doesn't have easy access for someone trying to gain entry into that unit. You want to make sure all doors are locked, all windows are locked, all sliding doors are locked. If the property has storage units that are connected to maybe the balcony or patio, you want to make sure those are locked as well. If they have a joint garage as well, you want to make sure the garage door is locked and that is secure as well. So any type of access that could be granted into the unit, you want to make sure that those areas are locked. What the last thing you want to do is have a situation where someone comes in, steals appliances, or is a squatter, or damages the unit, and you find this out as you're taking a prospect into the unit. That could almost certainly be a situation where that prospect is no longer going to be interested in the unit, and then you still have to go back and address those items. Make sure that all of your vacant units, every single time you go to them, are secure. One additional key point that I always recommend when I was a regional property manager to my teams is if the unit actually has viewpoints from windows that are on the ground floor or the first floor where someone could walk up to them, I would always recommend shutting the blinds for those first floor units. And this prevents anyone who's walking by to clearly identify that unit is vacant. You want to make sure that it doesn't illustrate a welcome me sign that may allow someone who has the wrong intentions to try to gain access in that unit. The second good practice when it comes to walking your vacant units that you should be performing every single time is running the water. Now, this is something that I think when I've taken staff members into units for the first time, they're kind of scratching their head when I've always required this. And here's a couple of the reasons why and some of the things that I would do. I would run the hot water in all the sinks. I would flush all the toilets. I would run the dishwasher. I would run the washing machine. And I would also, if it has a tub shower, I'd run the hot water for those as well. And this does a couple things that allows you to inspect the unit. So number 1, it inspects for any leaks. Number 2, it ensures all these things are working properly. You want to make sure the washer's working correctly, the dishwasher's working correctly, there's no leaks coming from any faucet heads. The other big reason that you want to do this is actually prepares the unit for a tour and maintains a certain level of cleanliness. And let me explain. So oftentimes if water sits too long, and you turn on the water, you get that sulfur, almost like an egg smell to it. And that's the last type of smell you want to allow that prospect to smell if they are walking a unit. Another thing you want to do by flushing the toilet is see that actually it helps remove that toilet ring and also any water that's been evaporated, and it brings that water level to the toilet back up to the normal range. So this is something that'll help you prevent toilets from becoming really nasty with toilet rings and also help prevent any type of smell that is coming out of the faucets or the water when you run the water often when you walk these units. What I typically do too is I would just run the sinks and run the tubs and showers for maybe the 3-4 minutes you're inspecting the unit. I would always recommend running the water until at least there's no odor that you can smell from that water being on. I hope you're enjoying this video so far and learning something new. If so, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for future videos. And the third best practice that you want to do every single time you and your team inspect vacant units is you want to make sure the temperature is set to an appropriate temperature for that time of year. Every single time that you inspect a vacant unit, you don't want to have a situation where you're leaving that air conditioner off or you're leaving that heater off. That is a bad idea. There's some negative things that can happen from a maintenance standpoint and due to the result of that, like frozen pipes, like flooring separating and bubbling up because it's too hot and the moisture is too high. So you always want to make sure that the air conditioner or the heater is on in vacant units. Now, one thing I recommend, in the summertime, I would set an air conditioner no hotter than 70 degrees. And in this winter, I would set your heat no lower than 66 degrees. A lot of times I've seen operators where they'll say, hey, we can save a few bucks and maybe allow that heat to be a little bit cooler during the winter so the heater's not running as much, saving some electric. Maybe we set it 62 or 60 degrees, and vice versa in the summer. They may set it 74, 76, 78 degrees, just allowing for some more savings when it comes from a utility perspective. To me, I think that's a bad idea, and here's the reason why. When I take a prospect into a unit, the last thing I want them to do is be uncomfortable. I don't want them walking in the unit and being cold in the winter and being hot in the summer. That's going to give that prospect the perception that it's not well insulated and your heater and air conditioner do not work well. And that is not the type of value you want to bring to a resident. I would recommend keeping it 66 and 70 roughly, just to allow that prospect to be comfortable when you're showing the unit to them. On this topic as well, one thing I would always recommend to do as well is double check to make sure that the thermostat has a battery in it to ensure if the power goes out, it still has the ability to run if needed. And I would periodically make sure that this battery is changed to ensure that it doesn't die in the middle of winter and then ends up freezing your pipes because the heat shuts off. And the last best practice that you and your team should be performing every single time you walk in and inspect a vacant unit is you want to ensure that it is ready for showings. So from a marketing perspective, you should have that marketing eye to ensure that everything is set up in that vacant unit to put that unit in the best position possible to be leased as quickly as possible. So you want to look for things and ensure that nothing needs cleaned, nothing needs any paint or touch-up paint, carpets are clean. You want to ensure that if there's anything like smoke detectors that are beeping because of low battery, that the batteries change and you're putting in those work orders for things that you can't change, maybe because it's too high and you need a ladder for. And you just want to ensure that all these things are completed and in good condition every single time you're inspecting the unit. If a unit has sat a long time, at the very least that unit should be cleaned, even if it's a light cleaning where you're cleaning off the dust from the countertops, you're maybe cleaning the toilets that maybe form some toilet rings, you're actually maybe cleaning the flooring. So anything like this, I would strongly recommend when it comes to making sure that your vacant units are in a good showing position. And don't forget those patios and balconies. Oftentimes they can collect debris, they can collect trash, they can collect leaves. So this is really important too, that your grounds team and your maintenance team also pay attention to those areas as well. So you really want to make sure that that is also an area that's inspected when you're walking. Make sure there's no cobwebs, things like that. And for a video recap today, here are the 4 things that you want to keep in mind when you and your teams are inspecting vacant units. Number 1, you really want to make sure that the unit is secure. Number 2, you want to run the water when you're inspecting these units. Number 3, you always want to make sure you're setting a good temperature at the property. And last but not least, you want to make sure it is ready for all of your showings. I hope you enjoyed this video and you learned something new. If so, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for future videos. And if you haven't connected already, please connect to our LinkedIn and our Instagram page. We share industry news, polls, and video releases. If you have any questions about this video or any of my videos, feel free to leave a comment and I'll be happy to address it for you. Happy leasing!